for tonight against the Warriors. I don't know. Maddie, you think that like Golden State's like defense can make the necessary adjustments tonight? Like, what are your expectations here?
So I really don't think that the ways that the Warriors win this one have to do with the Warriors. If the Celtics play their game and the refs let them play their game, I don't think the Warriors win again in this series, really. Like, I really don't think they win any more games. But for game 4, it's going to have to it'll take a Celtics letdown for the Warriors to win this one. With the home crowd, I'm curious what Jeff thinks about this too. Like, are they going to get extra amped given what happened last game? Like, I can't see the crowd being less intense with all of the stuff going on, with it being a Friday night, with a chance to go up 3-1 in the series. It's going to be crazy there, I hope. So, to me, if the Warriors play their best game and the Celtics play their best game, the Celtics win. So it's not about the Warriors' adjustments. I think that the Celtics just need to do what they're capable of doing, and if they don't, then the series may end up 2-2. But both these teams playing at their highest level, as long as the refs don't intervene in any weird way, I think we end up with a 3-1 series.
Well, Jeff, what's been like a big storyline here this postseason for both these teams? Celtics haven't, lost back-to-back games, right, this postseason. Same thing with the Warriors. After a loss, they're also undefeated this postseason. So you got to be a little nervous tonight as a Celtics guy.
You can be a little nervous, but I think you could counter that by saying that looking who the Warriors have played so far throughout the postseason, they haven't played a team as tough as Boston. And just to touch on what Matt said about the crowd is absolutely going to be amped up tonight. I mean, after what Klay Thompson said, Steve Kerr said at their press conferences after last game, do you know where you are? This is Boston. Those 10-year-old kids were probably leading those chants against you guys. Like, you have to understand, this is the Northeast. It's just how it is out here. And this is the finals. I was a little confused about why Steve Kerr was so upset. You played with MJ in the 90s. I'm sure you dealt with far worse than this. And then Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I think Draymond, he really doesn't care. He deals with this on a daily basis. But the Garden's going to be rocking. For the Warriors, the two keys I have for them to win this game, the first one is taking care of business on the glass. They were out-rebounded 47-31 and 15-6 on the offensive glass in game 3. That type of disparity just wasn't there in the first 2 games of the series. So the Warriors are capable of keeping Boston off the boards. They'll just have to run Kevon Looney more, roll out some bigger lineups. Maybe we see some Jonathan Kuminga. And then the second is having any kind of resistance defensively in the paint. Boston outscored the Warriors 52-26 points in the paint. And they were just willingly going at Draymond Green, Golden State's best defender. They're going to have to step up their defensive intensity if they're going to steal this game in Boston.
Yeah, they gave up also 17, the Warriors did 17 points off turnovers and then like 24 free throws as well. And like Draymond Green, going back to him real quick, nobody embraces that villain role more than Draymond Green in the NBA, Jeff. But also, he's been terrible through 3 games. So like he may be a little more frustrated. I wonder, be curious to know if you're going to go over or under like half a technical foul tonight. But I do want to also ask you about the DFS showdown here. Who do you think is worth captaining? Who do you think is worth the 1.5 times the salary? Because you got the usual suspects there at top, Jeff, Tatum and Curry, and then there's a big gap there between those two and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, first of all, this should be the game that Draymond Green gets ejected. He should have been ejected last game. I know we saw that clip of him pretty much swinging at Tatum's head, going for the rebound. So who knows? We'll see about that. But as for a captain, obviously you have the big 3 of Curry, Tatum, and Brown. And I like choosing the cheapest one at captain tonight in Jaylen at 14.7K. He's actually outplayed Tatum by a significant margin, in my opinion, throughout the first 3 games of this series. He's racked up 45 plus DK fantasy points in 2 of the 3 finals games, and he's taken advantage of this opportunity to handle a bulk of the scoring load, with Tatum really struggling to shoot and just focusing on deferring. So Jaylen, he was really amped up by the crowd. He and Marcus Smart were the 2 players who fed off that energy in game 3 the most. I don't see any way he doesn't come out firing again tonight.
I mean, hell, should his numbers like hold steady here, he's the front runner for Finals MVP right now. We talked about it on the show yesterday, Jeff, and then Maddie, we talked about that as well. How he's in the MVP conversation on the slate last night. Who's worth getting the captain's nod in your opinion?
Yeah, this is hard because I want to say Jayson Tatum. I think Brown's a good choice, but these players are expensive enough, and this slate is also lacking cheap players to the point where it just becomes hard to fit if you use expensive options. So I kind of want to go back to Robert Williams at 6,200 and just play him in the captain spot. And then that allows you the salary flexibility to play some more expensive guys. Like if Williams is healthy, he's a fantasy monster, at least at times, with 4 blocks and 3 steals last game. He took a bunch of Al Horford's minutes down the stretch, which I think no one would have expected coming into this series, where Horford had some issues in drop coverage, falling too far back off of Steph Curry and not having the athleticism to recover there. It's not really the thing that Horford can excel at. Robert Williams is much more athletic. Maybe the knee is a concern, and this is why I say this with some hesitation, but if Williams is healthy, he's going to have to play big minutes in this series and probably continue to take some away from Horford because he's so much better for at least this scheme in terms of containing Steph. Like he works better as the center than Horford does from a defensive standpoint. I think this kind of will depend on if the Celtics have a lead or not. But I think if they're up, you see a lot more Robert Williams. Maybe if they get down, they don't need him as much. But as someone who does expect the Celtics to play well tonight, I do think Robert Williams continues to see pretty big minutes. They've got a few extra days off after this game.
Yep.
So I think they do try to push him and really do everything they can to win this one because the Celtics know the narratives, right? Like they don't want to see the Warriors come back off this loss and even up the series. And a big part of that is going to be Robert Williams.
Yeah, just $9,300 there in the captain spot. Although like rarely healthy, he did remind the Warriors just how much of a problem he is back in that Game 3 victory. Who are you looking to stack with Big Rob then, Matt?
All right, well, I guess for this pick, I'll go back to the expensive guys.
Okay.
And if you are playing Rob, you can play multiple, but if I have to choose from the top range, I do think it's Tatum over both Curry and Brown. Brown is pretty reliant on scoring for his fantasy production. He has been rebounding well, but Tatum's passing, I think, really sets him apart here. And we haven't had a game yet in a while where Tatum scored and facilitated at the same time. I think that that's inevitable. I mean, he scored pretty well in Game 3, but we haven't had a 30 and 10 out of Jayson Tatum yet. And maybe we don't get one of those in the series, but the ability for him to just be consistent and if he's not scoring, then pass instead, I think his floor is just so much higher than Brown's. And I think it's higher than Curry's too, because I know we talked about this yesterday. Curry's dealing with a foot injury that is, unspecified severity. Like they're not going to tell us. Steve Kerr's, he's going to have him play, obviously, but they're not going to want to talk about it if it's bad. And I think there's a chance that Curry could have an off night if he's not 100%.
Yeah.
And then also with Marcus Smart and Derrick White on him the whole game, like it's a terrible matchup anyway. But if he's not 100%, like there is a chance that Curry just doesn't have a good game tonight. I don't see much of a chance of that happening for Tatum.
Yeah, but despite that lower leg injury, it's clear when you look at like the DK Sportsbook that odds makers are still expecting big things from him in Game 4. Jeff, you went with Jaylen Brown as your captain. Who would you like to stack with him?
Sure, I'll go cheaper here. And then on the Celtics side, Derrick White is a strong option at $6K. He didn't play as much in Game 3, but he's coming off only 1 day of rest. And Rob Williams, as Matt was saying, the knee is still a concern. I don't think he's going to play a ton of minutes tonight. As much as I would love to see him, I think if the Celtics get up, they're actually going to try to spell him for periods of time. And I could be wrong there because they do have multiple days of rest, but we know they don't want to risk that knee flaring up, especially with more games to go in this series. And if he doesn't play that much, that means the Celtics are going to go small with Derrick White more. And when he's played, he's showcased offensive aggressiveness that we hadn't seen consistently from him until recently with the Celtics. He's scored double-digit points in 5 of his last 7 games, and he's somehow found a way to hit 52% from 3 over his last 5. He could be a legitimate difference maker again tonight. And then just to quickly spotlight a guy on the Warriors who's cheaper too. Kevon Looney, he only played 17 minutes last game. His price is as low as it's been since the Mavs series, and it feels like the Warriors will have to play him a lot to stop Boston from relentlessly attacking the paint. So I like both of those guys.
Yeah, Maddie, let's go back to the DK Sportsbook here. Is there a player prop that you are eyeing? I know we talked about going under Steph Curry 29.5 points yesterday. That's now 28.5 on the DK Sportsbook.
Yeah, we were the sharps moving the line.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Look at this.
Reacted to what we said. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I do kind of like that still. I'll pick a different one though. And yeah, this is, I guess it's contradicting what Jeff's saying a little bit. And I'm really not sure how this is going to go, but Draymond Green's rebound prop is now only 6.5. And I think they will try to play Looney at center more, but ultimately, I just don't think they can get the offense that they need to with him out there. They're probably just going to need Draymond to play better. Draymond at 6.5, like I think he probably should be in the neighborhood of 7.5, 8.5 rebounds, something like that. So this feels low to me. Like it feels like a bit of an overreaction to his struggles last game. And then there's also the rebound prop for the series where Draymond is plus 750 to be the rebound leader for the series. A lot of this is dependent on what kind of changes Steve Kerr makes. So you'll probably know pretty early if this has a shot or doesn't, based on if Looney's getting the big minutes. But I don't know if there's really anything the Warriors can do that is a really good move here. Like if they play both Looney and Draymond together, their offense is going to suffer a lot. So I don't really know how they can handle this, but my hunch is that Looney continues to play less because they need the offense. And that'll mean Draymond at the 5, and that means more rebounding for him.
Jeff, what's a hunch you got here for a player prop?
Jaylen Brown's points, rebounds, and assist line being set at 34.5 just feels far too low.
Yeah.
Considering how dominant he's been in this series. He's hit the over on this number pretty comfortably in 2 of his last 3 games. He didn't hit it in the blowout because he didn't play in the entire fourth quarter, but he possibly could have got it there as well. And he's just been firing on all cylinders as of late. What's been even more impressive than his scoring to me this postseason is his playmaking. I know Matt said that he usually gets most of his fantasy production off of scoring, which is true, but he only averaged 3.5 assists per game in the regular season, and he's racked up 5+ in 4 of his last 5 games. So he's taking another step there. He's showing a willingness to find other players. I expect another big night from him tonight.
Yeah, and we know the Warriors have been giving like their primary defensive attention to Tatum, which has really helped Brown kind of open things up, giving him more room to operate there. I got one more for you guys. What's the game bet tonight? Jeff, what do you like here? Because right now Celtics 4-point favorites at home. Total currently sitting at 214.
I've been going back and forth on this over the last 2 days. The reality of the situation is, given Curry's history of foot and ankle injuries, I'd be surprised if he's even close to 100% tonight, especially because Steve Kerr doesn't want to reveal just how bad it is. Neither of them do. We heard him say in interviews that he doesn't know if he will play if tonight was a regular season game, which means he absolutely would not, and that he's hurting pretty bad. Even if we get another strong performance from Clay, even if we get another good night from Jordan Poole, it will mean nothing if Curry can't give them 30+ on efficient shooting and just run around the arc relentlessly to open up shots for other guys. Between his injury and the Celtics figuring out how to attack the Warriors in the paint, there's too much working against Golden State. So I think the Celtics can cover that 4-point spread today.
Yeah, Maddie, what do you think? I mean, the spread feels like it's ballooning maybe a little bit because of Curry's injury. I mean, do you want to lean maybe towards Celtics money line here?
Yeah, maybe, because I don't really see another blowout happening, or at least like a partial blowout, like we just got last game. If Curry's foot is bothering him at all, like Jeff is talking about, like we talked about yesterday, Celtics -4 is a really good bet if Curry is banged up. So I honestly, like now I'm kind of getting into the Celtics fan space of just like, I'm nervous for this game. Like that's what's happening. I think if I try to be objective, I would just say Celtics -4 is a good bet.
Yeah.
The number's a little low. I liked it for game 3. Game 4, I thought would set up worse because the Warriors have more motivation for this one. But with Curry's health changing, it might even set up better for Boston than it did in game 3. So I think I have to lay the points. I think the money line is safer, obviously. But yeah, I'm certainly leaning Celtics. I think they go up 3-1 in this series.